So the first thing I'm going to show you how to do is how to get ChatGPT to write you a resume. So what we're going to do is we're going to engage with the chat to have it write a resume for us based off some information that we give it. And what I've got right here is a general overview of what I've done and like who I am. So what we can do is we can start out by asking to learn what we need to tell the chat. We can ask the chat, hey, what do I need to give you in order for you to write me a resume? So let's ask it that first. Now, the time on this, it may take a couple of seconds, but usually this outputs really quickly. If it doesn't, up in the top left-hand corner, you can hit reset thread, or you can just refresh the page, and this should refresh for you. Great, so it's giving us some information, and what we can do is we can write this out just kind of like we're a human talking to another human and just say, hey, in general, here's what I want you to do, right? So I made a fake explanation here. So I said, hey, for my resume, my name is Micah J, and my contact information is this. My LinkedIn profile is this, and I am open to relocate. I know all these things. I have this education background from a fake university that I made up. I previously worked for a bunch of places. I just made this up to kind of paint a template for you. So you can follow this exact template, and I will put the templates down in the resources here for your class or in the description. You can go look for that. And right here, we're writing out the timeline of when we worked. We could be more specific with that down to the month. And then down the line, with all this information, we just go put that in there. And then it's going to spit everything out, right? So it's providing this, is building this for us now. It's got a nice format there with a name. It's outputting this kind of as in a code format. But when we copy this over, it's this copy code, but it's not necessarily code. But yeah, it's writing this out. It's giving us a format for our skills. It's nice and clean and professional, top to bottom, skills, experience, right? It's breaking out all of the positions one by one. It's got a little summary there, for it and everything. So this is a really good, effective way to get a resume generated. And all we did was we just told the chat, hey, here's kind of who I am, and here's what I've done, and here's sort of my education background. So I made up this thing that Elon Musk personally recognized me with the SpaceX Employee of the Year Award in 2015. And that's just kind of like just a kind of add-on type of situation to like the job. I just said like, oh, I was at this job and I got this award. And then ChatGPT took it and made it this like really professional sounding thing in this this resume, right? And at the bottom, throws out education and laid it all out. So this is basically as good as any resume that I've ever seen. But one of the things that I wanted to add to this was just like an about me statement at the top. Say, hey, can you provide a general about me statement that provides a message about, that I am, a driven professional and I'm constantly learning and evolving, and all the things that employers want to hear, right? And so I'll say, hey, make this short and professional, put it at the top of the resume, right? So I'm saying like, hey, just take this information and just put this at the top of that resume. So it's going to go in and it's going to consider what I've asked it to do here. And we're looking at a load time right now that might be running up against where ChatGPT at this current time when I'm using it is actually not super responsive yet. It's under a lot of load. These are, the early days of its use. And, so if you see the load time going for a little bit longer than you think, it might be time to refresh. Usually it'll give you an error message, but here we go. Cool, so I've got like an about me statement for the resume. It just spit that out. And I could even tell it something like, hey, can you make this sound smarter or more interesting? A very broad statement, just like what I would communicate to a human. So I'll say like, can you make me sound more interesting and use fancier words? Okay, then it's going to come back with whatever version it thinks, right? So I'll also just give it a thumbs up, and I'll just say that was awesome, right? All right, cool. Now it's going above and beyond to give me an updated version of my resume with the About Me section in there, and it's updating the words, right? So it's got the summary for people to read that's combining my skills with the About Me statement. And wow, it says a lifelong learner with a passion for applying data-driven insights to solve complex problems and drive innovation. Wow. Like when I said fancier words, it's exactly what I meant. And this just natively knows that. So we're getting some refinement here. This is all kind of auto-generated fake information about the role that I'll have to go tweak and make it tailored to, the real things that I actually did at that job. I would not encourage you to copy and paste what the AI generated, because of course if you didn't really do it, then you're basically lying. But what you can do is you can give it a statement and say, hey, for principal data scientist at Acme Inc., can you specify that I worked on this project and it really helped this department? And then you put that in there, and you should start to get a return back where it will modify this resume continually in this same chat interface where it's providing this information out. So overall, that is how we can write a resume out in ChatGPT. That's how that works. And I hope that this was helpful. I will see you in the next video.
So the law is an extremely complex topic, especially in the US, but also probably in every other country as well. So we're going to use AI to help us understand the law better. We're going to copy and paste some US code into ChatGPT, and we're going to ask it, like, what does this mean? Explain it to me like I'm 5. So I'm just in here in the US code, and I've got some section of the code. I just tried to find something really boring. This is the section on Social Security, and I'm going to ask the chat to describe to me what some of this means. So you might be studying this, you might really want to know something in there, but what we're going to do is, oh my gosh, it's so much text, jeez. So I'm going to take this section that references a ton of other sections that just no one could possibly understand what on earth this means unless you looked up like 19 different things. I'm going to feed it into the chat. We're going to see if it can tell me what this means. I'm going to say, tell me what this piece of US code means. Like I'm a middle schooler. All right, let's see what it comes up with. Okay, so it came back with a pretty simple explanation of what this piece of code means. So I'm going to go find something else. I'm going to look at some different piece of code that may be something like criminal and just see if it comes up with something interesting here. So I found this section on voting rights and just got that code pasted in here with the prompt about, can you describe for me how this piece of US code protects voting rights in the US? So I just copied and pasted that in there, and we'll see what it says. So we're getting an answer, and so we get the basic explanation that this is mostly about discrimination, and let's see, where the code prohibits intimidation, threats, etc. The Attorney General can take power, legal action to prevent that. I'm going to ask it just broadly, like, what else can you tell me about this statute? I'm also going to ask it, is this something that protects voting rights within states? Because I know that's been a big question of, like, how does the federal code actually relate to states? And, as far as I can tell, if there's a federal code and, a federal law, an actual law at that level, that's, within the U.S., that's pretty sturdy, right? That usually means that, hey, regardless of what the states are doing, the states can't do less than this in almost all regards. So this says specifically that the statute does protect voting rights, ensures that all citizens are qualified to vote, even if you can't pass a literacy test. That's not, because that used to be a discriminatory tactic. Let's see. Yep, there's no voter eligibility in any state that could possibly be applied by right or deny the right to vote due to errors or omissions on voting-related documents, unless the errors are material. I wonder what material means. So I'm going to actually ask you, what does material mean in terms of errors? Actually, just curious how that word is applied. And I think if I was an 8th grader, I'm not really going to know what material means. Like, this is like a learning mechanism for me to actually understand the law at a more like granular level. So let's see. Oh, okay, gotcha. So material means like, hey, there's an error, but it's not a big error. So like somebody kind of miswrote their address or something like that. It seems like there's a little bit of kind of like relevancy inside of the law with that word that says like, okay, well, if this is relevant to the particular situation, then you know, an error could only be used to deny your vote if it was important enough, and it was like, this doesn't make any sense, this is a major error. So we got some more dry text on campaign finance, and we're going to take that and throw it in the chat and see what it'll tell us about campaign finance law. And I'm going to ask it to explain this code to me like I'm 6, so I'm actually going to take campaign finance law and then try to see if the chat will distill it down to something that would make sense to somebody who is 6. And I have kids, so I am interested to see, and you know, I had siblings growing up, so it would be interesting to see. And I was once a 6-year-old, to clarify that. So let's see. The U.S. Code is about how political committees, okay, should be organized and run. Any money, personal funds of the individual. I don't know. This is getting a little bit more complex. Maybe they thought I said 6th grade, but it's still cool that it's distilling it down, right? And it's condensing it. So I'm gonna ask it. Oh no, I shouldn't do that. I said, can you explain it to me at a kindergarten level? Let's see. I'm interested to see how that works out. Okay, so, okay. These are some big words, but they did have, I think that some kid would say, what's a public office? Just say, let's say, please make it simpler. And I'm iteratively giving the chat feedback, and then it's going to refine what it gives me based off of that. So this, all of this interaction is kind of strung together, and it kind of spits out the same thing. So I don't know if we could really take US code and distill it down to a kindergarten level. But with that being said, this is very easy to understand. So like something like this: these committees must tell the government about the money they get and spend. The government uses this information to make sure that committees are following the rules. So like money and following the rules, those are pretty, I think, easy concepts for kids even at that age, right? So this is actually a little bit better. So it's really cool. We went from in this case, this big block of code right here on federal campaign finance, and we distilled it down to some explanation worthy of elementary school kids. So I just think this technology has some really interesting implications for education that are worth checking out if you are a teacher. But anyhow, if you've hung out with me in the video to this point, I appreciate you watching. And if it was helpful, smash that like button and drop a comment below with any cool use cases that you have yourself put in place for that. And have a good one. I'm going to show you how to learn Python with ChatGPT. We're going to build out all the code that I have here available in Google Colab. I'm going to show you how to even ask ChatGPT for some openly available data so we can get the project rolling. The process is pretty simple. All we're going to do is ask the chat to give us code, and we're going to provide some just answers so that it knows what we want. And if you just hang out for a couple of minutes, we're going to go through all the steps needed to output all the code that I showed you. Also, check out the link in the description where I have a full free ChatGPT course. Just check below. So in order to get some data from ChatGPT, we're going to give it a prompt like this. We're going to ask it specifically to give us data. We're going to describe what data we're looking for, and then we're going to ask it to give us this information formatted in a table so that the information is neat and clean. And we're going to see here
is a description of overview of what we wanted, and then it's going to begin to output a table. And what we can do with this is actually take this and copy and paste this into Excel. What we can also do here is we can use this as the start of a project where we move into saying, hey, let's take this data and then put this in a pandas data frame and then use it as a Python data science project, which is also what we'll do here at the end when it is printed everything out. Now we're going to ask it to give us some Python code at this point with this prompt here. We're going to say, hey, we're going to want a chart and a map, and then we're going to say, hey, can you give me the Python code? And it's going to then proceed to give us this code, which you're going to test in here in just a second in Google Colab. You see it is taking all the data that it gave us, and then it is going to print out all of the numbers. Now, if this does stall out at any point in time, you can just say, hold up, let me run this again, and you can say like, hey, you didn't finish the code, and you can just chat with it. Just say, hey, you didn't finish the code, you didn't give me all the data, I want you to give me all the data, please do that, and then it'll restate and it'll reprovide all the information. So in ChatGPT, whenever it's pumping out long form text, sometimes it does stall out. Like you see right here, it went all the way down to Kentucky, and then it just sort of stopped. But here it's pulling all that in, and this just has this because it has access to all of this gigantic copy of the internet, and that's why it can pull this information for us. And what I'm doing here is I just said, hey, can you provide the code that you left out, because it did stall out here. And sometimes it'll go back around to give the whole thing and print it all out again, which will take a little bit extra time. But what you can do is, again, say, can you give me only the code that you left out? And that will really clarify things for the chat. So I'm changing the prompt a little bit at this point because it went and repeated it, stalled out at the same point. And so I said, hey, can you provide the code you left out? Only provide the pieces that you didn't provide. No need to start over. I will have to ask it to give me the bit right here for the solar. And it looks like it only started halfway down the line. So we will run into this again. But eventually it will output this. Now, if you want something that's better for long form text, I'm actually going to go to OpenAI Playground, and I'm going to run the same prompt that I had before through it, because it's a little bit better at long form text generation. We're going to see if that will output a better solution for us, because if this keeps stalling out, it could be a problem. And we're going to run this through here, and we'll see if this outputs what we're looking for. And we've got some of it. And then this is giving us information as if this was a CSV that we already had. And we don't already have a CSV, but we can work with, what we can do is we just erase this, which is what I'm going to do right now. Or we could go and just reprompt this. So we'll see if this will do that. We can kind of make a combo as well once we get everything from ChatGPT. So I ended up having to ask it for just the top 10 states, and then I didn't do the map just yet. I just wanted to kind of leave that out of it. But what I did is I went and pasted the code that it gave me over into Google Colab, and what I got here was a chart, a really simple bar plot of just the total renewables. And then from here, what I can do is I'm just going to feed this back in, and I'm going to say, based off of this, can you give me the top states that are using wind and the top states for geothermal, and then can you label everything, and I'm going to see how it does with creating those charts right there. Let's prompt it like this, and we'll see what we get. And here's the code that it gave me, and it did output exactly what I asked it to, but the one thing is that there wasn't a lot of geothermal, so I'm going to try to ask it if it can do solar, or if it could just give me some other type of chart that would show the distribution of every individual state. And I'm just going to ask it for a couple more options. I'm going to ask it for some chart codes for solar. I'm going to ask it for specific things here. It also gave me some code for a scatter plot as well, and this isn't a great visualization because there's not a lot to work with here for specifically solar. What I did here was just change the same code over and then just change the labels to say hydroelectric, which is one really cool way we can work with this data and just kind of modify it quickly. One thing I'm going to do is I'm going to ask the chat how to make these a little bit bigger and see if we can just modify the aesthetics of the chart overall. All right, so we got some new code here for a dark style that works with the size. And we just ran that, and we do have a better looking theme, labels, and then overall we have our just everything. It looks great. So this is a cool way to just start learning some Python and get some data, and you're doing it all with ChatGPT. I'm going to show you how to use ChatGPT to interpret medical studies. So medical studies, these big bulky things with tons of text and just information that you have to dig through. You can read it, but what you could do is you could just pass all the information to AI and have it interpret it for you. So I'm going to prompt the chat to explain the outcome of this medical study to me in a few simple sentences. I'm going to copy and paste in as much as I can. You don't want to copy and paste too much. You can paste more sequentially. You can paste some and then say, here's a little bit more information about the study, and then ask it to provide that. But overall, I passed all this information in, and it is giving me information here. So it's saying that the findings suggest that ashwagandha may be, effective in reducing stress and improving mental health. This is just according to this study, right? But let's go ahead and throw another study in here. All right, I found another study that actually says ashwagandha hurts your liver, so we're going to pass that in, and we're going to ask it to compare. So I copied and pasted the rest of it in. I'm going to say use all this information to present your whole understanding of the study. And so then I'm going to ask it actually its opinion on both of the studies here together and what it thinks about ashwagandha as a whole. Actually, I might go and grab a couple more studies and throw this in here. One thing it did say about the second one that I provided said the findings of this study, which I think it was like 5 cases according to here, right? It may be associated with this liver injury, but the sample size and lack of control group limit the strength of the findings. Further research is needed to confirm the association. So it's really cool because we just pasted all of this stuff in here, and we were able to get that down to basically, yeah, you found this, it was moderate, and with that being said, further research is needed. You probably should have a different study that ultimately, basically ChatGPT is telling us, hey, based off this, pretty much you can kind of assess that you need more studies, right? So if you're trying to understand a study for yourself, or you're trying to do some research for school, or you just want to condense any big set of detail-rich fact text and understand it in a simpler pattern, this is how you can do it with ChatGPT. I hope this was helpful, and if it was, smash that like button, and thank you so much for watching. Now, before you make a website, you're going to need a domain name, and that involves a lot of thinking up what that domain name could be, going to a site like GoDaddy and then looking around and thinking up and testing and generating this stuff, and ChatGPT could just help you do it. So I'm going to show you how to use ChatGPT to generate a bunch of ideas for domain names. Here's how you do it. All right, we got our prompt right here. You would run with something like this. You would say to ChatGPT, I want you to act as a smart domain name generator. I will tell you what my company or idea does, and you will reply to me with a list of domain name alternatives according to my prompt. You will only reply with the domain list and nothing else. Domain should be max 7 to 8 letters, should be short but unique, and can be catchy or non-existent words. Do not write explanations. Reply okay to confirm. Let's see what this does. It says okay. Great. We could also use this type of technique for other things, but let's go ahead and tell it what we want to do. So I'm going to tell it that my business sells real estate house flipping courses, right? Okay, and we have domain names, boom, right there. I didn't really like the quality of those. I don't think they're long enough, so I said, hey, you can go up to max 12 letters. And then I said reply okay, and it says okay. So I'm going to say my company is I review fishing gear. Okay. And some of them are still a little bit sloppy, but I could literally just ask it, give me 10 more, right? And it will throw Fish Gear Pro, right? Fishing gear advice. I bet you all these are taken, but it still gives you some options to go look up based off of what you do. I'm going to tell it that I do a service-based business like carpet cleaning. Let's see what it comes up with. Yep. Got some great names right here. Carpet cleaner, Enville, Nashville carpet cleaner. I don't like the .net. I could tell it only give me .com examples, but I could just take the .nets and just do the .com myself. It wouldn't really be a big deal. And there you have it. Really simple, short and sweet video. I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.
In this video, I'm going to show you how to generate fake JSON content for all of your programming projects where you would use JSON using AI. I'm going to show you how to do it real quick. So my prompt is going to look like this. I'm just going to ask for some data that represents employees at a company. And I just asked it for dummy data. It's going to give us like years of company, salary, a couple of different things like that. Obviously, anything that you're designing for, you can ask it to include these attributes in the dummy data. So just explain to it a list, say, hey, I want you to build me JSON with these, with these attributes, and then so I'm asking it to revise this to actually give me a little bit more information. I'm asking for a fake department that they work in and a manager, and I asked for the manager to actually be one of the other employees. So you can see right here we got Bob Johnson, and then Bob Johnson is one of the other employees, but he is the manager of Alice Smith. So we do have an interesting kind of relationship set up here, which is really cool, and it's just enriching our data and just making it a little bit more robust, right? So that whatever use case, like you can just prompt and tell it, hey, can you make it a little bit more like this or a little bit more like that, and it will just give you the JSON like that accordingly. And if you ever run into a situation like this where it didn't print out everything that you wanted, if it kind of stopped, you could say like, hey, could you please print out what you left off? And then usually it won't start from the beginning. It usually just give you what you want, but sometimes it starts back from the beginning. I'll show you an example of that right here. So I asked it to print out the JSON that I left out. It said, I'm sorry about the incomplete JSON file. Here's the entire file again. So it is printing it out all the way again, but that's okay. We'll just wait for it, and then we should be able to get what's just at the end, which is what we want. But ultimately, I'm just going to keep the video short and sweet because that is the foundation of how you can generate JSON with ChatGPT. I hope that this has been helpful for you. Thank you so much for watching. And if this helped you out, please drop a thumbs up, like a heart, a like, whatever in the comments, or just throw a like on my video. I really would appreciate that. It really helps me out here on YouTube. And thank you for watching, and have a good one. I'm going to show you how to use ChatGPT to get some fake data for any of your projects, for data science, for data visualization, or anything that you're doing with programming. You're going to need some demo data, and you might even be able to ask it for some real data. I'm going to show you how to get tables, things that we can turn into Excel sheets, databases, etc. from ChatGPT. Let's go. I'm going to give it a prompt, something like this. It says, generate a CSV of the top 10 most famous astronauts, and what countries they're from, and what year they went into space. And so we're going to get this, and it's not quite there yet, so we're going to ask ChatGPT to give us this in a table, or we're going to re-specify that we wanted to provide a CSV format. And actually, I eat my words because it's now giving us the list, and then also giving us the CSV format. All right, I'm going to throw another prompt that's going to ask for like fast food restaurants, just for an example project. We're going to ask it for geospatial data. So we're going to say, hey, can you give us a latitude and longitude of some fake fast food restaurants with an employee count? So if you're doing something with like restaurant logistics or just locational data, this is generating a bunch of dummy data. One thing that I do see is the coordinates. They look like they're close but not too far away, so that's awesome. That's pretty much in line with exactly what you want. So you gave us a table, and it also gave us a CSV format for that data. I'm going to push another prompt where I'm going to ask for a fake CSV data set of stock prices that are associated with the companies that it just gave me in the other project. So it's going to like take like McDonald's, Burger King, Wendy's. It's going to make up like these fake stock tickers, and then it's going to make these fake stock prices. So if I was building out a project here, it would go ahead and like give us something to relate to. So we'd have like the locations, then we'd have like the stock price and like the number of employees, and we can build that out for our project. All right, for the next prompt, I'm going to ask it to generate a table of 10 rows of customer visits to those locations, and I'm going to ask it to generate a fake list of menu items, and it's given us these like comma separated, which is cool, and then like a total spending amount in dollars. And then I asked it to give each customer a unique ID, so every customer is a like an individual like person. And I'm going to ask it to actually expand on what it gave me just here. I'm going to say like, hey, can you give me a fake credit card number and a fake name to match that as well? So I'm asking it to create these names, and it's going to update that existing table. And so we have a customer ID name, fake credit card number, location, menu items they ordered, and then the total spend of items.
you can see it actually tying Chick-fil-A sandwich to Chick-fil-A, chicken bucket, mashed potatoes, biscuits to KFC. It's matching everything up appropriately. That's kind of funny. It's actually pulling like real items from these franchises menus and then having them be the items instead of just making up some just random thing here. So cool. The credit card numbers are not super creative, but we didn't need them to be. They're just 16 digits, exactly what we need. All right, next I'm going to ask it to create a data set that represents the nutrition for each individual item that was purchased at like every customer interaction at every store, for which we also have the location, stock price, the recent customers, and now we have all of the data. This is crazy. Like you have all of this simulated data for all of the calories, fat, protein, carbs, ingredients inside of every single individual item. So we can actually equate now, if in a data science project, we can use all this generated data to actually relate all of the interaction to how many grams of protein that customer individually consumed, which is really, really cool. And actually, I'm going to go further. I'm going to ask it how we could do that with Python here in the next step. So my prompt looks like this. I'm going to say, using Python, how could we relate the customer interactions, the menu items ordered, and the nutrition data table to determine exactly how many calories each customer consumed in their visit to any individual fast food location. So it's recommending pandas, and then it's also saying if we had a CSV, which we could copy and paste any of this data into an Excel document, upload it as a CSV, use Google Colab or something like that, it would say, hey, we would go ahead and we would merge on menu item, and then we would group by the customer ID and the calories and the sum. So let's see, we have the menu item right here. And then over here, we have menu items. So actually, it's not accounting for one thing. We have separate menu items. So I might have a comma separated list right here. Big Mac, French fries, and a Coke. Whopper, onion rings, and a Sprite. Then over here, I only have one item. So I know, just from my programming knowledge, that this isn't spot on. So I'm going to ask it, how do we deal with the fact that menu item and menu items are different? How do we work with that? So I'm asking it really broadly because of the difference. How do we relate those two attributes? So I'm just broadly asking it how we do this. So it's going to give us some instructions. Let's see what it comes up with here. So it's saying, let's take menu items and then split it by commas, which could work. Yes. And then it says we could use the explode function to turn the items into separate rows. Okay. And then we would merge on menu item. So we would have to, let's see, would we have to rename the column? We'll see what it says there. So I think that would be like the last steps. We would have to rename the column, but it says we don't. But ultimately, we'd have to try it out. But this is just a really neat way to, I think, generate data and then go after it. And we could have taken, what last thing I'm going to show you is we're going to take just one of these just to show you. I'm going to copy and paste all the content into Excel so you can see. All right, so I've got Excel up here, and I just copied and pasted that table in there. And here we go, but that has all the formatting. So let's go back, and we will paste as plain and match the formatting. And check that out. We have a table right here that we can go and use. That's so cool. I'm really interested in where this can go. But yeah, we can take this and we can start to develop all sorts of things with this fake data. It just ask ChatGPT and it'll just give it to you. So I hope this has been helpful. Let me know what you think about it in the comments. If you like this video and you want more content like this, go ahead and subscribe. And thanks for watching. Have a good one.
I'm going to ask ChatGPT to help me write a 5-page paper on the Boston Tea Party, just a subject that you might have in school, and let's see how well it does in helping me do this. So I've got a Word doc up, so we can do word count, and we can do page count, and we can double space it and all that stuff. I'm going to prompt the chat. I'm going to say, hey, can you help me write this 5-page essay? I'm going to see what it does. It should hopefully not start giving me all of the content right now. And it's right now it's giving me an outline, so we're going to start with that, and we're actually going to provide a hot take in our essay. It's going to be like an opinion driven essay. We're going to say like why the Boston Tea Party was bad. So that's the way we're going to write this. I set everything up to be 12 size font, Times New Roman, double spaced, and word. So I gave it my prompt with the idea about the opinion and which angle we're kind of going to go with it. And so it's already outputting why it was bad. So it said, so the event was illegal and resulted in destruction of property. And then there were further strained relations between the colonies in Great Britain. So this is definitely a great case for why it was really bad. So I'm going to open OpenAI Playground, and then I'm going to feed it the prompt. I'm going to say, hey, can you help me write a 1250 page, sorry, I said, page, I meant word, paper about why the Boston Tea Party wasn't the best idea. Use this information to help develop this writing. And then I copied and pasted what came from ChatGPT. So we have something going on here, and we hit submit for the second time, and it looks like the chat has almost hit its end here. We got rate limited, so we're going to wait here for just a second to kind of proofread through this. And then we're going to start taking some of it into our Word document to format that. Now, if you're thinking about plagiarism or the detection of ChatGPT, I'm going to show you how to get through that here at the end of the video. So keep watching, and we're going to talk about that here at the end. So I wouldn't really worry about that. Also, we're going to make this your own. We are going to write this out and format this and change it so that way it is what you created. So I'm going to do a little bit of modification through here. We're going to change some words, scope some things out, and then we're going to ask for an expansion of some of this text. So we're going to send some of the text back into the AI, and we're going to ask it to, can you blow this up? Can you take this idea and then make this 3 paragraphs instead of 4 to kind of format our structure? But right now we have this good introduction, and then we went straight to a conclusion. And so this is just a 1 page. So we need to, we're going to think about, okay, we have the conclusion here, and then we have the intro here, and we're going to fit things in the middle. So what we're going to do is we're going to run ChatGPT a couple more times with this. Probably going to expand the intro a little bit, but we're going to try to throw some meat and potatoes into pages 2, 3, and 4, and then make page 5 the conclusion, and that's going to be how we sort of lay this out. So I just threw another prompt in ChatGPT. I said, hey, can you expand this idea to 4 paragraphs and talk about the economic implications for common people that would have resulted at the time due to the Boston Tea Party? So we're going to take the middle of this paper and we're going to expand to a economic angle of how this is all playing out, and that's one of the things that we're going to say is bad. We're not going to in the paper say, well, they shouldn't have done that, but we're going to be but the economic implications, because they pissed off the merchants, that is the negative effect here that we're saying that's why it wasn't the best idea. So that's how we're going to kind of form the paper here. So we got 2 paragraphs, and so we're heading towards the right direction. And so here we're going to take this, copy and paste it in. We're going to look at it, proofread it. Cool. So I set a prompt and I asked the conclusion to be 4 paragraphs. And then I said, can you highlight some other methods that the colonists might have taken or used to create the same effect, but not in the same way? So we're actually in conclusion suggesting different courses of action for history for the purpose of this essay. So we are going to get this expanded version out of the chat, and great. So we're going to see what ideas it comes up with, and then we're going to take those to the Word document. Then we're going to work on a little bit of the formatting there. We're looking at about 3 pages right now, and we've got 669 words. The big thing here is when you're prompting and then you're injecting the ideas and you're saying, hey, can we kind of write it like this? And then you're doing some editing. This is where I think that this is ultimately you are writing the essay. You are providing the prompts, you are gathering the text, you are reforming the text, and you are presenting your ideas with text. You are just getting a super leg up to use the AI. Now, some professors may disagree with me on that, but that is what's happening here. So then in the middle, I wanted to highlight like 3 paragraphs specifically on how colonial families and workers may have suffered in terms of like loss of employment and the fallout of where Great Britain got upset about that action. So we're going to get those 3 paragraphs, and they're going to kind of go in the middle here whenever they come out. We're going to right here. We're gonna put that right in here. So right here it talks about merchants, employment, wealth, and it kind of focuses on the merchants, but then I want to take a turn and be like, well, forget about the merchants, let's talk about the average colonial family and how that impacted them. So we're talking about let's see here, this could have had a particularly negative impact to those who are already struggling financially, increase of prices. Let's regenerate this response. I want a different one. I felt like that one was a little bit too echoey, and then we're gonna see where this goes. So I want to expand the conclusion, just fill out the last page, because we're at 5 pages now, and it's only been like 6 minutes that I've been at this. So we're gonna say, okay, we're going to expand this idea out. So I gave it as a starter. I said, hey, could you expand this to be 3 paragraphs? And then I said, can you make it strongly worded? One cool thing is that you can say, hey, can you change the tonality of the wording? And that can add to a more like vibrant writing style, if you will. So I'm going through here and I'm indenting paragraphs and formatting, which may be a little bit premature of me, but what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to start to take this text, because we have a decent enough format. I'm going to take this and I'm going to go over to this plagiarism checker by Grammarly, and I'm going to put this in and scan for plagiarism. So because ChatGPT and OpenAI, they have access to this copy of like the entire internet pre-2021, it is possible that they are pulling some pieces about historical events specifically, or just anything from that they're pulling this from already existing written text. So what we're going to want to do is, now that we have some plagiarism found, we have some grammar and spelling and conciseness issues. So we are going to go back, and this is normal. We're going to want to look at this, and we're going to want to change this around, and then probably feed it back into the AI and say, hey, can you create a remade copy of this? I want to change some of this. We're going to change some of the wording in here so that becomes more of our wording from our actual writing, so that way the AI can take that text and then format it out to be the same way. So I'm copying and pasting the entire survey into OpenAI Playground, and we are going to say, for the initial prompt, can you rewrite this entire essay with stronger and more dynamic wording? Keep the word count, the same word count, or higher. So let's see what it outputs here. Hopeful that it's going to come with just a different version and structure of pretty much the same set of ideas. So I think this is a little bit short, so we might have to throw this back through the AI a couple times, because I'm pretty sure that this is not even close to what we provided. Yeah, because our I think we got 1,300 words now, so we're going to ask for this, and what we'll do is we'll add an additional prompt here. We'll say like, make sure to produce at minimum 1,550 words. And sometimes it listens, sometimes it doesn't. One thing I'm going to do here is I'm going to turn up some of these right here. And what these guys do on the side is they tweak the output of the AI, and some of these things are interesting, right? So like, there are different options that it considers when it's creating text, and it has a frequency of words that it uses, so you can actually penalize the repetition of certain ideas, which was one thing that I did notice when I was editing. So let's take that. That's too short. Let's run this again. We're going to turn the frequency penalty up, presence penalty, and best of, and the maximum length is good. We might want to run that through again. Now we could change this if we wanted to, but I think we're good with Text DaVinci 03. So we're going to just kind of wait, run this a couple times, and then see where this goes. I just scanned the first 2 paragraphs of the new output for plagiarism, no plagiarism found, so we're doing good. So I'm probably going to take that in. So I just took the output that I had. I'm following the same process of kind of taking the information, washing it, adding some ideas, getting some stuff from chat, getting some stuff from the playground, and then putting it in here. So one thing that keeps coming up is it keeps using the term After Effects, so I've been changing that. And overall, we are getting to a pretty good point here. So we have about 4 pages, and if this process ran a couple more times, we would have a 5-page essay. So obviously, there's a lot of sort of more of an editor role that comes into writing instead of just writing and just jamming things out. If you wanted to go and get your sources and then put them in a proper sourcing format and add them in there too, if this was like a research paper for this, is kind of you may not, I don't know, you may cite some of your sources, right? If you had them, if you wanted to bring those in, you could kind of follow the same path that I did here with this sort of pass. But we have no plagiarism found at this point, and the only thing left for us to do is to take all this and throw it through the GPT-2 detector and see if it will catch this for detection. So let's go ahead and take this. We're all the way up through here, and then let's see what we can get. It's going to predict it, and this is one of the main output tools right now, so it might be something that we need to refresh there, but it looks like it's going to go through all that text, predict it, and we'll see what it comes out with. And we just got our detection back as 99.97% real. And that is also because even though we used the AI to generate it, we did not have 100% AI generation. There is still a lot of human touch on this. And this is just a sort of automated amplification of the text, right? So anyhow, I hope this was helpful. Good luck on your essays. If you write them like this, make sure that your editing is on point and just work through them. But overall, it was about 10 minutes to kind of accomplish that entire process here. So you could go further or later, longer, but we're talking about, maybe hours of creating an essay versus much less time using this method. So I hope this is helpful. Thank you for watching and have a good one. So I asked ChatGPT if it could help me develop a basic 5th grade math curriculum. Let's say that I needed to homeschool my kid, right? And I wanted to use AI to develop out what the curriculum would look like. And I don't know what I'm doing, right? This chat will tell you. So I said, hey, can you provide links to learning resources, worksheets, planning, courses? I want the entire curriculum to be free. Please describe in detail how I would teach this curriculum every week, how long I should spend on what content, and then describe exactly what lesson content I should be teaching every week. Give me a day-by-day breakdown of what lessons I should teach over the entire school year. Okay, cool. So it came through, it gave some basic overview of like what 5th grade math consists of. Now, I don't know how deep it goes into some things like algebra and geometry. That seems a little bit deep. But we're, brushing the surface, I think, at that level. And, it's just some kind of healthy overviews. Then it gives you reference to 3 videos or 3 sites that have free resources. So IXL, Math Antics, and Khan Academy. So based off of this, you should be able to go and find some free resources that you could just take your kid, give them that, and then from there, follow this kind of broad schedule. So what I can do is I'm going to ask it to actually expand on what it's given me now, because we haven't gotten a day-by-day schedule. So I could say, hey, can you plan 2 solid weeks of math lessons day by day? So I'm asking it, can you plan out the next 2 weeks of math lessons based on this 5th grade math curriculum? So it's probably going to assume, I'm hoping that we're starting from 0 and we're rolling through based off of just, day 1. So from here, it says, hey, on Monday, let's start with decimals. On Tuesday, let's do decimals and fractions. Then on Wednesday, comparing and ordering decimals. Thursday, reviewing decimals, and you're pretty much just spending the whole week on that. Friday, you've got a quiz on decimals. So one thing that we can actually do is we can go in depth with this, and we can say, hey, can you make me that quiz on decimals so that I have that content to give to my kid? I can print it out and then give it to them. because it just said, hey, give me a quiz on decimals. And I'm going to be like, well, can you make that for me? And it can. So this is really cool. We can actually develop the curriculum live as we're right here. Now I'm asking it explicitly for a 10 question 5th grade math level quiz on decimals, but I could have just said, hey, can you give me that Friday quiz? And it would know what you're asking for. So here we go. It's saying, yep, here's the quiz is multiple choice, and it's breaking it down. And what I'm going to do is, like, let's say that you're a parent and you just completely just blanked on everything that you learned in school, like a lot of people did, which is fine, right? You're not necessarily working out decimals every day, let's say, and you want to know, okay, well, can you just tell me what the answer key is for this quiz so that I can grade it appropriately? And we can ask it for that too. So it's spitting out, we're running through, it's got a bunch of great questions here. We're going to say, hey, can you give me an answer key for this? So I ask for the answer key and we'll see what it comes back. Now these are, we could have just gone to Google and we could have looked this up, but we don't even need to. With a very, very simple ask, it will give us the full answer key for the quiz. So we have no barriers now. We have a full breakdown, lesson plan, access to free resources. We could have paid for some resources and then we could feed those resources in and ask for more refinement, but it generated a quiz for us. It generated an answer key. So we pretty much have everything that we need to go out and teach 5th grade math. I'm also going to ask it, how much time per day should I spend on the lessons? And then I ask for any advice on how to effectively use that time. So it'll be interesting to see what this says. And honestly, all of this information is coming from basically a gigantic copy of the internet pre-2021. So this is sort of condensing all of the homeschool advice on the internet pretty much, based off of your ask, based off of what this thing wants to give you at the current time. So this is like the best version of a Google search you could ever hope to accomplish. So it's giving you a 45-minute guide. It says, let's do a warm-up, introduce a new concept, and then have them do some independent practice and have a little bit of review, and then try to mix it up every day to keep it interesting. So overall, this is really cool. I think this is going to be a game changer for homeschoolers and homeschooling. I hope this is helpful to you. And if it was, please hit that like button and drop a comment about how this helped you. And thank you so much for watching, and have a good one. I'm going to see if I can use AI to plan retirement. I'm going to create a hypothetical scenario, pitch it to ChatGPT. This is an AI chatbot from OpenAI. If you haven't used it, there's a ton of different uses for it. Basically, its entire brain is just a copy of the entire internet pre-2021. So I just asked it, can you help me plan my retirement? And it says, yes, but let me explain to you what you're going to need to consider. And what we're going to do is we're going to feed it some information, and we're going to say, okay, here's what I have set up. Here's what I'm going to need for retirement. And like, how can I, like, what do I need to have saved in what areas? So we're going to start asking it some stuff about 401k, pension, that type of stuff. Off the bat, and then we're going to ask it to help us figure out how to adjust. So I'm asking it directly, if I have 9,000 in a 401k and I'm this old and then I want to retire at this age, how much should I be adding to my 401k every month? So it's going to be kind of vague, and it's going to say like, hey, there might be a few factors, but we're going to ask it to clarify, because this is kind of like an iterative thing. You can say like, hey, yeah, I know that is difficult to determine, but can you give me some projections? Can you give me some figures? Can you estimate this out? So it can kind of act as a calculator, and then also too, considering the prompt here, we can give it some more information to help us with that. So sometimes it's good to ask the chat like, hey, could you just tell me what could be good, or can you just give me some suggestions? And so what I did was I gave it some more of the, like, what my retirement expenses might be. And then I said, hey, can you adjust it for inflation? And then I said, hey, can you give me some rough estimates? And then tell me what contributions could be good. Now, Sometimes the best way to prompt ChatGPT, if it doesn't want to give you some explicit advice on like finances or whatever, which it's trained to not be engaging with you about like how to get rich or something like that. It doesn't want to be telling you like you should buy this stock. You can say, hey, can you just tell me like what in theory, like as part of just a research, like for a theoretical person, what this would be. And then it'll be like, okay, well, if we're diving into theory or fiction, then I think basically what that's doing is bypassing the sort of tripwires that the AI has set up to be like, okay, well, if we're talking about theory, in theory, if your friend wanted to save for inflation, or sorry, save for retirement. So this is kind of cool, right? So right here we have sort of a plan here. So to help you reach your retirement savings of $6,000 per month, then if you had an annual investment of 6% and retire at 55, you would need to put this much back per month. And if you did 8%, 7%, okay, cool, right? So this is cool. So what we can actually do is we can say, hey, based off of these retirement numbers, what should my income level be if my contribution is X percent? So I asked it, I said, if my annual income is this, what could a monthly budget look like with this savings plan built in? So it's gonna say, hey, it's difficult, and what we could do is provide it some more details and prompt it and be like, well, consider this, consider this, consider that I pay X amount on a car payment every month, consider that my rent costs this much. Can you define my budget based off of that? I have another video for planning a budget, and I actually have a full course on using ChatGPT for just general professional tasks. It's just overall hacking your professional life and doing useful things with ChatGPT. So this is one of them. We also have OpenAI Playground, which does a little bit more expansive, a little bit less iterative, like long form text generation, and that's pretty helpful too. So I'm going to ask it just to be candid about what a monthly budget could be, and I'm going to give it some theoretical figures. So I just said, hey, in theory, here's how much I'm spending out and there you go, perfect. It's computing a budget based off of everything. So it's saying, hey, this is your income, here's your expenses, here's your total expenses, and then here's how much you could be saving towards retirement. So it kind of estimated the other expenses on top of these. Now, if you had like super low overhead, all you did was work, eat, sleep, then in theory, this is going to work out this way. But you could provide your whole entire budget, all of your information to this chat, and it could spit out a accurate prediction of what that retirement plan might look like. So we can get really interesting. So I could say, hey, if I actually was to save like $2,000 per month, when could I retire if I have these expected retirement like expenses? It's important to keep in mind that it is saving all this information. So unlike Google, where you would have to write the search out several times and then dig through the links, this is remembering everything in your conversation contextually. So it's saying, okay, this guy makes $85,000 a year, and he has these retirement goals, and I already know his budget. And based off of that, I'm saying, hey, if I save $2,000 per month, how early could I retire? And so once again, it's going to try to be kind of broad, but I'm going to just tell it again, like based off of what I've told you, if I save $2,000 per month, how early could I retire in theory? So I did have to prompt this a couple of times. I did have to say, in theory, just tell me how it will work in a calculator, make a guess, provide multiple scenarios. Finally, we did get, an estimate, right? So we have the contribution of $2,000 per month to the 401k from age 28 to 55. Compound, the rate of investment is this, compound interest. The balance will be this, and then the monthly payouts could be, and it's very candid to say, important to keep in mind the following calculation is a theoretical estimate. So this AI is pretty strict. It does not want to give you too much, right? So using these assumptions, the monthly payouts could be this much. So That's pretty cool. I took everything into consideration that I provided. I gave it like a life expectancy and the payout goals, but then I said, how much would it be? But it doesn't necessarily want to cough up immediately direct investment advice. But if you ask it, hey, can you just tell me some scenarios? Because, the chat can only provide you a calculation off of the scenario, the same way that any financial planner could. So nobody knows the future. Nobody knows these interest rates. There's no such thing as that in financial advice. So you're getting advice from an AI or you're getting advice from a person. You're getting basically the same quality. You're getting a calculation based off of your current balance factors, a set plan, and then some figures, and then theoretical estimates based off of historical numbers of things like interest rates. But overall, this is a really cool tool. I think this is a great use case. It's very useful, and this is something that financial planners might want to look out for. If you can do something like this with AI, you may not need to get these types of plans or strategies or this type of guidance or information from people anymore. You may be able to just tap into something like ChatGPT and get your information there. But anyhow, I hope this was helpful. Thank you so much for watching, and have a good one.
So let's say I have a problem or something I'm looking to develop a solution for at work, and I know what software I think I want to use, and I know what my problem is, but I don't necessarily know how to tackle it using that software. What we can do is describe the problem and the software we want to use to ChatGPT and see if it will give us an output. And so what I have here is I say, hey, I want to use Excel to figure out which one of my team members will be in the office during the holidays because people are taking a lot of time off. So I want to know who's going to be in and then who's going to be out on what day. And I want to use Excel. So how do I do that? And so we're going to push that problem to chat, and it's going to say, hey, it looks like you want to create a schedule in Excel, and then it's going to break out some steps for how we can do that. And it's nice because it says, hey, here's one way you could approach this problem. So it gives us step-by-step guide, tells us how to lay out the sheet in cell by cell, row by row by column, and very specifically says, hey, we're going to want to put in some leave dates, we're going to want to put in some team members, and then we're going to want to progress through the whole thing, right? So what we can do is we can get more prescriptive. So I could say hey, I want to see a line chart that shows me the number of people that will be in the office on any given day, so I know how much coffee to make, right? Let's say that's the use case. So we'll say, can you, and once this is done, we can kind of preload our text in here to see what it's going to do. Oh, but actually before we do that, it said for us to do VLOOKUP. So actually VLOOKUP is one of the more intermediate challenging functions in Excel. And I always have to look up the documentation to do it, but I can actually just ask, hey, for number 6, how do we do that VLOOKUP? And so I'm going to say, hey, can you just clarify on number 6 because you were just a little bit too broad. So here, it's going to go through and let's see what it gives us. We'll give it our exact use case when we line this up. Give it as much detail as possible, and try to format in an intelligent way. But there's no specific format that you have to give this information to ChatGPT in order for it to be effective. But see here, it just said, here's your VLOOKUP. Here's what you're going to do. You're going to put the leave dates in their own workbook, and then here's the formula you're going to want to use. So it spits that out. It goes really in depth on just that number 6 of our original guide here, like this step right here. It broke out number 6 into an extensive guide just for number 6. So like I'm saying, you don't have to rely on just a broad scope overview of, hey, solve this problem for me in Excel, and then you just have to figure everything else out for yourself. No, like you can come back and you can ask specific questions and say, hey, on this specific step, I'm having this problem. How would I fix that? Let's ask it about the line chart and see what it says now. So we'll say, hey, we want a line chart on this other page. What do we want to do? Great, it's going to say, hey, from the Insert tab, let's select line from the Charts tab. Let's insert that, and then let's see here. It is a little bit vague on number 5, so it'd be like, can you expand on number 5 in the charts? Explanation. And then let's see. Yeah, so now it's going to go straight into the actual buttonology of the charts inside this specific chart in Excel. So it's going to tell you like all of the axes and like what you should call every axis and what you should do for the colors. It's pretty robust. So anyhow, this is just one example of how you could solve a problem using ChatGPT, and create a solution or do anything like that with it. So something that everybody has to deal with as a professional is learning new skills and adapting to new environments. So you may have a situation in which you need to get smart about something, or you want to learn something that's new to you that you don't know, but you need to know how to do it, and you need like a learning plan that you can adhere to so you know like what you need to learn and where you need to go to learn it. And in this case, like let's say you want to set out a 4-week plan for something new. So I'm going to use this prompt right here, where I'm going to say, hey, I need to become smarter on organizational data management. And I'll ask the chat if it can provide me with a 4-week plan on what I can learn to get smarter in that area so that I can help my organization become more successful. Now, this could be, any topic. I was even explicit down here. I said, hey, can you make the guide very simple, or make the plan, I can say guide or plan, very simple so that I can understand it, because I don't know that much about data. I'll be like, hey, don't use too much jargon on me. So I'm going to push this into the chat, and it's going to say, hey, sure, here's a simple 4-week plan. And it's going to go through and it's going to lay out all of the weeks for me. So it's going to say, hey, week 1, we're going to do this, and give some bullet points. Week 2, it's going to go in to say, hey, here's what we're going to do. Breaks it all down and gives you a template, right? And if you don't like that, if you think that you need to, change, if you think it needs to change it all, that would just be something that we would respond to the chat and say, hey, this guide is too complicated, or can you provide a day-by-day breakdown of how I can get to these tasks, so that way you could like build out a schedule for each day to attack this learning plan. You can ask it to do that. And that's actually what I'm going to do next after it comes back in and outputs this. So one thing too to mention with ChatGPT is we're asking it to output a lot of text right now. And it is possible that it might stall out and stop outputting text, and that's okay. We're just going to want to go back into ChatGPT, refresh it, hit reset thread in the top left-hand corner, and then try again, and then see if it'll give us all that chat or all that text. Let's say, can you give me a day-by-day schedule breakout of this learning plan? And let's see if it goes through and it says week 1, day 1, right? Week 1, day 2. That's what I'm looking for. So we'll see what it does. Cool, day 1, right? Introduction to data management. Day 2, data organization and storage. Day 3, it goes boom. There you go, right? And it says day 5 quiz, and we may not have that, but what we can do is we can look for a quiz that is in an online course or something of that effect that we could actually line up, right? So Or we can make like day 11 just a review day. Or I could tell the chat, hey, I don't actually have a quiz. Can you replace all of the days that you have quizzes logged for, so that way you'll have this available. But so here is a really easy way to automate an entire like learning pathway over a really short time frame for you to be able to go and understand how to get after learning something new with ChatGPT. But anyhow, we're going to move on, so go check out the next video in this course, and I'll see you there. So in this video, we're going to go over how we can format automatically with ChatGPT a message that we need to send out that is important. Let's say a company-wide email on something that you're trying to get all of the employees of your company to engage with. So like one common thing would be like, I made up this prompt here, like, hey, can you send a company-wide email to all employees reminding them to update their talent and skills profile before this date, so that we can track employees for new opportunities and growth development. And I'll say, hey, this is from Micah at the HR professional development team at Acme Inc., right? So all the time you have to send out emails like this when you're in a company. So it may not be to the whole company, but you're gonna need to build these emails. So this is the one way that you can accomplish this with ChatGPT. Let's pass this in, and the AI should, from here, go ahead and format out an email for you. So initially, like this prompt right now, it's giving this message back because I said, can I send? So I just need to restate slightly to say, like, I don't want you to send it for me, because it's reminding me that it can't go send an email for me, which is fine. But all I'm going to do is, can you write out for me? So I'm just going to change the phrasing a little bit. And this is just sort of the input-output that you have with ChatGPT based off of what it gives you. You can respond and say, yeah, hey, understood that you can't send an email for me, but can you build out the text for that? And so it's going to go and do this now. Great. So we got a subject line, dear employees. It's a little bit formal, but we can actually ask, like, hey, could you make it sound less formal, or just like say like team, comma, as like the first line here. But I love this, right? So we're asking all employees to update their talent and skills profile in our system. Updating your profile is easy. It even has instructions, right? Now, if I had given it a link and said, like, here's where the talent profile is, it would have included that inside of here. But ultimately, right, we've automated this email. It looks really good. And all we would need to do is in that initial template that I pointed out right here, is you would just need to change this, tailor this to be what you want it to look like for your use case. So if you have a company-wide email about a holiday party or a picnic, or how people keep leaving the coffee pot on when it's run out of coffee and it's burning in there, right? Like you could automate any email, and you can tell it to have any tonality that you want, and then it will build something awesome like this, and this will be the output. So cool. I hope this was helpful. Go ahead and check out the next video. I'm going to show you how to do some more useful things. So one other thing we can do is try to write an email for interactions with an outside vendor. So like, let's say you had somebody from Salesforce hit you up, and they want you to sign up to use their stuff, and you're ready to reach back out, and you want to format an email to kind of address to them, like, hey, I think I have a rough idea of what we might want to use the software for. Can you give us a demo, right? And so this could actually format an email, to somebody who's actually reached out to you before. So we got this guy, this fake employee, Mark, who works at Salesforce, and we got this demo email, right? So it says, hey, I'm wondering if it's possible you can provide a demo of the software. So like, this is a really easy, interaction. So if we just provide, hey, we need to send an email to this guy about this software, what can we do? We can even ask like ChatGPT, can you ask some specific questions about Salesforce and what a subscription would look like? But we could just say, like, can you add to the email some questions about the software for Mark to answer by email before the demo. Questions about, we can literally just ask ChatGPT to think up questions for us. So it can actually take what it knows about Salesforce and then actually see if it'll make some questions. And so it says, hey, can you, before the demo, can you give me some answers to these questions? Can this integrate with Slack? What sort of support and training options are available? And then can you tell me what other businesses in a similar industry are using this software? So if you couldn't think of any good things to ask the outside vendor before, it came up, it actually gave some of them were like somewhat generic, but like the customization. But overall, we got some very useful questions that we could ask Mark as an outside vendor. Hey, what can I do with this software? And ChatGPT took what it knew about Salesforce and then made up some questions for you. And since ChatGPT knows so many things, it has such a breadth of knowledge about, what things are. Like if I say, what is Salesforce? It will tell me what Salesforce is. It knows a lot about it. And you could even say, I am a food logistics company. How could I leverage Salesforce? So we could even ask that before we even email Mark back, to just ask the AI if Mark's company or software, whatever he's selling, could even be useful for us. So that could be one thing. We could do actually like, some market research in here as well. So I could say like, I run a food logistics company. Would Salesforce benefit my company? And we'll see what it says. It says, hey, it could be used for this, and this. You can track orders, interactions, deliveries, all these different things. So it actually is answering for you what it is about Salesforce that you might be interested in, a use case that could apply here. And you could say, what other comparable software options besides Salesforce could I use? And I'll just say like, hey, what else could I use? This could actually arm you as you go into the demo meeting with Mark to say, hey, how does your software compare to these other options? And it just gave Oracle, HubSpot, Zoho, all these other different softwares and platforms as an option. So here in about 4 minutes, we just wrote an email to Mark. We asked him to provide some questions. We know what the competition is. We know what we could maybe use this software for. So we're actually in rapid time without having to go on to Google and doing a bunch of research. We're actually going to know how to engage with this external vendor and how to move forward on this for our company. So anyhow, I hope this was helpful and thank you for watching. So when applying for jobs, a lot of the time it's suggested that you add a cover letter, but cover letters are a lot of writing and it's for every single job you submit for. And it's like, is it worth it? And it makes people shy away from it. We can actually ask ChatGPT to create a cover letter for a job ad. So I've actually got a job from just a job description from a job ad for a job at Spotify. And I just said, hey, can you create a resume cover letter that explains why I want this job? Here is the job ad. And then it just goes through and it's talking about they're looking for a data science leader at Spotify. Spotify for artists is going to be the division. You're going to work with these people in these departments. In this role, you're going to report to this person and you're going to be doing all of this stuff. It has a full description, who you are. You have 8 years of experience, blah, blah, blah. All the stuff you would see in a normal job ad. So I just throw all of that out and it's going to instantly give me back a full breakdown of a cover letter that sounds just like a human. And if it doesn't sound the way we want it, we can just toss it back. So we can tell ChatGPT like, hey, thank you you know, for what you gave us, but can you revise this to sound a little bit more exciting? That's what we'll do. Can you revise this cover letter to sound smarter and be more exciting about why I want this job? And we'll just see what it comes back with, right? So he said, this thing says, I am thrilled about the opportunity to join this team, right? So that's definitely more exciting verbiage here. And, you know, so we can pick if we want this one or not. But this does give us a starting point where we can take this and we can modify it, and we could take out some of the fluff, or we could add some things. But depending on what we told it, we could tell it our past roles the same way that we did with the other video where I was talking about the resume, where I gave a little background on, like my professional past, like jobs I've worked at or whatever. And it could bring that into the cover letter to then translate into the cover letter for this specific job. So it's writing this all out for you, and it's doing it instantly. So that is a huge gain for anybody who's on the job search. They could use AI to actually generate these cover letters so that every single job application is a really quick and like fluid, valuable experience. And there's always a cover letter, right? And you could generate cover letter after cover letter. You would just add in a different job description to make that happen. So yeah, I hope this was helpful. Thank you for watching. One thing you might want to do is just get some professional advice when you're job searching, or just you're trying to branch out or whatever. And one of those places you could do that is LinkedIn. And I think a lot of people know they want to make their LinkedIn profile better, but we can ask ChatGPT how to actually do this. So I can say, hey, how can I make my profile on LinkedIn the best it could possibly be for a potential employer? Could you give me some examples on how each part of my profile should be laid out as a template or a guide? And then it will give us some tips on how, each part of the profile should be laid out, and we can ask it to expand on those things, right? So I could actually say, hey, here is my background and skills, and I could just type out what my skills are. And then, I could be like, how could I format my LinkedIn description to actually, look the best it could be? Like, what could you write me a LinkedIn description? And it could do that. So that's a pretty big gain, right? So it's giving us, a 1 through 8 list. And I'll be like, I could say, name is Micah, and I'm data visualization professional looking for people to connect with on my professional journey. I don't know. Sounds like something somebody would post on LinkedIn, right? So, can you write a LinkedIn description and a headline for my LinkedIn? I said LinkedIn twice, but anyhow, it gets the point. It's like, okay, cool. Great. So it gives me a description, and it's just spitting out this just beautiful, text right here. And then literally, right in the headline, it's even got the little bar: data visualization professional helping businesses and organizations make sense of their data through effective visual communication. Or my first name, like it's a little bit more of a personal option. So this is great. And I could be like, could you give me a couple more suggestions? And it'll just spit that out too. So, it's going to say, hey, here's one. And you can say like, hey, well, could you give me like 3 options? Could you write me like a bunch of these so I can pick which one I like the best? And it will do that for you too. So he says, hey, you could use this, or, I could just say try again, and it'll go through and it might write me a different one. Might be like the same kind of thing. Yeah. So the difference here is, with over 5 years of experience in the field, I have a strong understanding. It's a little bit different than this one up here. So we're getting something different. And instead of like professional, it said specialist. So it's tailoring the words, and you're throwing the ball to it and it's throwing the ball back. You're asking it to modify and you're receiving something in return. So hope this was helpful. I have another video for you as well. If you want to check that one out, I'm going to show you how to do more useful things with ChatGPT. One thing that everybody should be doing, but we all probably do pretty poorly, is a little bit of project management with all the tasks that we have to do, whether that be on like a large scale or like a smaller scale level. But like, let's say that I have a stack of projects that I need to get to, and I need someone to prioritize them for me, or let's say something. Is ChatGPT. It's not a person, but you can talk to it like a human, and it does pick up on what you're saying. So we have a bunch of tasks, and I don't know which priority everything should be. So can you just guess? Here's the list of tasks. I want to meet with Bob about the company picnic. I want to talk to the insurance company about the recent robbery at one of our company gas stations. I need to plan out the next 5 years of my professional development. I need to put a ticket in to get my computer fixed with IT. So I've got all this stuff going on, but I really need someone to help me out, or something to help me out, to understand what priority that I should put all these tasks in. So what it's going to do is I'm going to give it all these tasks and say, hey, I got all this crap to do. Can you just tell me what I need to do first? Can you tell me what you think that I need to do first? And what's going to be interesting here is, based off the description of what you said about the tasks, it is going to give me a suggested priority, right? So first thing it does, it says, hey, number one, you're going to want to address that robbery. This sounds really like a time-sensitive issue. Then let's meet with Bob, and then we'll think about planning out the next 5 years of professional development as a subset of that, and then it ranks last, putting in a ticket to get the computer fixed with IT. And the first time I did this, this actually ranked this higher, right under the insurance company, because it recognized that that this was important for me to do my job. And it was like, well, you're probably going to need the computer to accomplish these other things. So it actually ranked us above the professional development. So what I can actually tell it is, I can just say like, but my computer doesn't work, and that's really important. And I'm just acting like I don't know anything here. I'm just saying, I have no clue, but I just know that I need a computer to be able to do all these things. And that's all I expressed to chat was, oh, my computer doesn't work. What should I do? How should I set up these tasks? And then it's going to go through and it's going to say, well, if your computer isn't working, you should get that fixed, right? So like, let's put that as the top priority. And I'll say, can you give me a new priority list then? Which is kind of silly, because I could just move the order. I could just copy and paste it myself, but I can actually ask ChatGPT for me to just be like the ultimate lazy human, and for it to do all of this task for me. And it will spit out and be like, okay, fine, here's a revised priority list. And then it puts the ticket at the top. And then it puts the robbery, and then I meet with Bob, and then I plan out the next 5 years of professional development. So if we had a longer list and we kind of told it some more background on the situation, it could give us a whole task priority list depending on the information that we provided to it, and then it can revise it and then spit that out in a format that's valuable for us. So cool. In the next video, I'm going to show you even more things that you can do with ChatGPT as a professional, so stay tuned for that. So a really common task that we're always doing is building out a daily schedule. So you may want to build out a calendar or a schedule based off of projects or different tasks that you have to do through the day. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to ask ChatGPT to build out a hour-by-hour schedule for an 8-hour workday where I need to accomplish the following tasks. So I can say, hey, I need to work out, meet with Joe about the honey hot sauce project, finish my performance report, deal with my travel receipts, get lunch with my boss at Olive Garden, and pick up my kids from school. So I'm going to ask it to do that for me and see if it comes back with a coherent hour-by-hour schedule that gives me a breakdown of what I actually need to do. And so that way I can go and take this information and add it to my calendar. So we're waiting for the chat to push this out. So it's going to say, hey, here's a possible schedule and it says, hey, work out in the morning, which is one really cool thing. It recognized that working out is probably something you're going to want to do in the morning. And then it put picking up kids from school at the end of the day, because that's when kids get out of school. So it even added some additional stuff for the rest of my day in there as an additional 5 to 8 p.m. spend time with your kids and help them with their homework or any other activities they have scheduled for the evening. So it's really cool because it went through my entire day and actually gave me more than what I even asked for. So from here, you know, this is like you can go anywhere with this. So I can say, hey, can you prioritize my travel receipts over anything else? I'll say, can you prioritize my travel as the first thing I do before or after working out? And then that is going to restructure your whole daily schedule to output in that direction, right? And I could even get really crazy and I could say, hey, can you provide me a general schedule day by day, hour by hour for these projects, and let see what it does there. So this is interesting. So it's actually saying, it may not be feasible to do this because you already have this meeting. So let's be aware. So what I can say is, like, it thinks that I have this meeting with Joe at 9. So I can actually say that meeting with Joe is flexible. So I'm just going to say, hey, that meeting with Joe is flexible, and just see what it says. And this is just like talking to a person, right? Like if I was planning with somebody about a schedule for a day, I could say, hey, that meeting is flexible. We don't really need to worry about that. And that other person is probably going to pick that up and understand that. And here it's going to give me a revised schedule where it says, hey, let's work out, deal with your travel receipts. Then we'll push Joe to 10, right? So what we could actually do is, in this case, we could have a whole day's worth of meetings, and then we could provide, and this is a common use case, hey, restructure all my daily meetings because now I need to add this one or take this one away, or I need to move this one to this time, and it will spit out a new structure hour by hour for your calendar. So I think this is probably one of the underrated things that ChatGPT can do, and it's something that everybody needs to do when they're working. So in the next video, I'm going to show you even more that you can do with ChatGPT, so just check that out. So one task that almost all professionals have is performance reports, or some sort of statement about the work that you've done, or the work that you will be doing in your position. So I've made out a little template here where I'm going to ask ChatGPT to write out like a performance work statement, and I'm going to tell it, who I am, what division I work for in my company, and I'm going to say in the last 3 months I helped a customer on a project to create a new 72-foot ladder, which will be sold in all their store locations. I helped with research and development on a new formula for a type of honey that tastes like hot sauce. And we're halfway done with the instant cement formula project. And I'm also working on a project with Facebook ads, right? So just like a very broad thing that I'm doing at this company, right? So it's going to go through and it's instantly going to give, a performance work statement on, what I did over the past 3 months, and it says, overall my contributions have been valuable and have helped drive the success of the widgets division. So we can expand on that even more in a variety of different ways. I'll be like, can you make a job description for this type of job that I work? This is so recruiting can find a replacement for me in the next year. And so it's going to take my performance work statement, and then it's going to go through and say, okay, what are the key responsibilities of this actual job, right? So it's breaking out and saying, hey, our company is seeking a driven and skilled individual to join the widgets division. Here's what you'll be doing for key responsibilities. You need to have a strong background in project management. And then I can come in here and say, oh, can you add that you need, I'll say like an education requirement, a master's in project management, or let's say astrophysics, because those two requirements are totally related in terms of education, so it makes a lot of sense. So it should go through and be like, hey, and this is if it doesn't stall out right now, because sometimes when it blinks for a little bit too long, it may be about to stall out. We may need to refresh it. But once again, it caught right up to it, and it's just going right through here. It's going through and saying what the key responsibilities are. We're getting basically what we got before, which is awesome. And we can take this and we can revise this to make it stronger. And let's see if it adds in the education here. So it didn't actually put that in there. So we're going to say, please add education requirement for this job ad. We'll say the applicant needs a master's degree. All right, cool. So, it didn't catch that immediately, so maybe I didn't phrase it right. But, on the second pass, I'm just going to go in and say, hey, the applicant needs to have a master's degree in astrophysics, or it's not going to work out to work at Acme Inc. in the widgets division. So let's see if it comes through and does it now. Usually the more specific you are, then the more it's going to emphasize it. So if I say hey, knock that off, don't do that anymore, I need you to add this information to what you just told me, it will do that. So you can see it put the master's degree requirement right here at the top above everything else. And also too, and then it put it at the bottom. So the way that I worded the requirement, I think I said this applicant needs, right? So that keyword needs, I think that really fired off and sort of really cued for the AI what I'm trying to get at. But yeah, I'm going to show you how to do some other stuff in the next video, so stay tuned for that.
This video, I'm going to show you how to use ChatGPT as a social media manager, ultimately a helper to build out social media posts. So I have this group that I started here called How to Use ChatGPT, and we're going to use the chat to write the post for it. So the prompt that I'm going to put in here is I'm going to say, act as a social media manager for my Facebook group called How to Use ChatGPT. I will be providing videos and pointing people towards resources on how to use ChatGPT in this Facebook group. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to stack this with a variety of different videos and just text posts and how, I'm pointing them to some links. So I'm going to see how long it ultimately takes me to make about, we'll work on maybe 25 to 50 posts. And so what we'll do is, we'll work on that in here. So for post types, I can go ahead and say, I got a couple different options for how I could post. So I could post videos. We'll work on some of the other types in here, but ultimately we're going to work on theming this all out, putting some images in. I already have some images of some stuff that I'm going to add in to the ChatGPT, like the cover photo and a few other things. But we're going to work on that right there. So give me 1 second. I'm going to grab a video and then we're going to build our first post out. Okay, so I have this post that I've built right here where it says, learn how to easily write essays with ChatGPT. I'm going to take the 6 second off that. And then I have a link to a YouTube video with a full guide. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to say, can you make this post sound better? And so it's going to rephrase the post for us. So it's giving us a full breakdown to that link. If I open this, let's see.
I'm going to ask Chat.
Yep, there you go. It takes me right to that video. And we have everything we need here. So let's go and we'll paste that in. And there we go. So we'll go ahead and post that. That's an awesome first post. So I'm going to work through in this similar manner of just
providing a simple idea of sort of what I want to do, and then I'm going to from there throw that into ChatGPT and then just iterate and see how long it takes me to make these good posts. So I'm going to come back when I'm at like 10 posts. Okay, so I took some of the content from this video on retirement planning with ChatGPT. I took the title, link, and then the description. So I didn't really put much brain power into this. I'm just going to say, hey, can you make a social media post based off of this? So it's building out a descriptor, and yep, it's saying here's some things that you can do. Sometimes it gives you phrases like ChatGPT has all the tools you need. That's not necessarily what we want to say. That is, ChatGPT doesn't have the tools. It is a tool for this. So I'm going to take that. I'm going to copy and paste that in. And just in the proofreading, I found that out. I'm calculating, instead of saying has all, can be the tool you need. Okay, and then I'm going to take this, I'm going to hit enter here, give a little spacing, and then I'm going to post that in there. Okay, cool. So we have our second post. And from here, I'm going to maybe add a cover photo in just a minute, and we'll move on. So for the cover photo, I uploaded this guy right here. He's got like a little chat bot that's helping him do some homework or something over coffee. And so I like to use that one as a cover photo. And I generated this with, I think, DALL-E or Stable Diffusion. I forgot which one. But yeah, so we got some posts in here. Great. So I'm going to tear through a couple more posts. I'm going to see how long it takes me. All right, so I just took another video. All I did was throw the title and the link, and it just automatically knew what to do. I didn't even need to prompt it to push that out. And so got that. Copy and paste that in. Space it out. And there we go. And I've got that going through. I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 posts that I've made all in about 5-6 minutes here. So I'm doing about 1 post a minute. So I'm going to see if I can pump out even more content, make this group as good as it can be, and then we'll see where it goes from there. So overall, I got to about 15 posts. I didn't go all the way to 25, but this is really helpful. It made the process really fast. And anyhow, I hope this is helpful for you. So if you end up using it like this, let me know how it went in the comments, and thanks for watching.